Please welcome up on stage Tony Markovski.
Yes. Oh, let me see if I can find my. Also, yes, I think I lost it or misplaced it. Maybe
Ida have it.
Ida eller Lisa. Oh, here we go. Let me see. Alltså, finns det någon som inte är svensktalande här idag? You? The two of you? Okay. All right. Okay. And you don't understand Swedish at all? Are you Danish maybe or something? No? Yeah. Some Finnish? Okay. All right. And you over there back in the back? Danish? Finnish? English? Oh shit. Alltså jag hade ju så här gärna gjort det på svenska, för jag brukar inte göra det normalt. Men let's do it in English. All right. So, yeah, you know, it's a very nice introduction, Jonas. Thank you. So I'm not sure if that's entirely true, but like I've done a bunch of things for like digital companies and stuff, like proper ones, who I think were founded like in a different way than like most big companies are, like corporations and stuff, like in the last century. So this is sort of like a summary of that, and this is completely non-Adobe endorsed, I would say. There's like a logo up there, but it's entirely my own opinions, like people write on Twitter and stuff, so don't complain to Adobe, Gustav. I know you're like up there in your suit, looking down on me and being angry already. No, he's good. So, I don't think this is working. Ja, det var fel, okej. Jag vet faktiskt inte var jag la den. Vi kör på det, yes. Sorry about that. I have to, but this is really bad. All right. Yeah, this is a little bit, do we find it? If we find it somewhere, it would be great. Yeah, so I don't have to run back and forth. So, digital, oh, here we go. Sorry for this mess. Yeah, I'm Skåning, so that's why. That's why. Blame it on them. So, yeah, the digital economy, like everybody talks about it and everybody seems to have like an opinion on it, and it's really abstract, I think, and people really don't know what it truly means. I don't either, by the way. So this is just one perspective on this. You know, people talk about transformation, right, and disruption and things like that, and the role of experience in all of that. And I think, you know, I'm going to try to demystify that a little bit and looking at it from a mobile perspective more, because I think that's like a really important part in all of this. And it's also about what makes some people and companies and teams and organizations successful. You know, I don't even know why I have this here, but you know, like this is like from a Wall Street screen, and the green stuff obviously is, you know, companies that end up doing well, like revenue and stuff, you know, things that companies care about. And you don't want to like be in the red. You can agree on that. And what I'm trying to say here is I think mobile plays a really critical role in this transformation, in this digital economy. And do you know how many phones, mobile smartphones, like not the old boring phones, but like proper smartphones. Do you know how many of those there are in the world this year? Anyone? Any idea? Everyone here has one, I suppose. Does anyone have like an old Nokia or something? I'm looking at the Finnish people now. I don't think so. Yeah, you have, of course. Yeah, that's. I forgive you. Your backup, yeah, it's just backup, sure. But you know, most of us, we have them now. It's like with screens and stuff, and there are 2.5 billion of them. All right, 2.5 billion by the end of the year. That's the projection globally. That's a lot of smartphones. And do you know how many times people, on average, pick up their phone and look at them per day? We have to look a little bit of bidding. What did you say? 300. I like that number. All right, that's a little bit high, like 50? 150, yeah. So it's sort of in between there, 150 to 200 times per day. So if you combine these two, like there are 2.5 billion phones, and people look at them like human beings. And we're not talking about customers. Let's just eradicate that word out of our vocabulary. It's disgusting almost. So people, humans, we look at them 200 times a day. There are 2.5 billion phones. that results in this many mobile moments per day. That's 500 billion. And it's like it's a huge number, but it's actually, just for comparison, to make it more tangible, this is the total amount of stars plus fucking planets in our Milky Way, right? It's a lot of them per day. That's how many times we interact with our phones. So the question is, and this sort of came out of nowhere, and this is, in my opinion, what's causing all this disruption, companies not knowing what to do, and will be increasingly important in the coming 2-3 years. So the question is what you do. If you're a brand, or if you work on a team, or whatever it is you do here, I don't know, if you're a designer or whatever it is, what do you do? And I'm going to try to simplify. There are no simple truths here, I have to say. So this is sort of like done for a presentation for, I don't know, 20 minutes. But we're going to do a panel afterwards, so please ask questions and stuff. And there will be a lot of interesting opinions wherever he went now, the moderator. He's not here. But experiences, design proper experiences on these devices that make sense for people. All right? An app, usually, that makes sense, that does something useful, like getting from A to B, or booking a hotel, Ada, wherever you are here, like booking a hotel, making it more simple, or check in, that you don't need these ridiculous keys, the plastic things. Why not use your phone to open up the door? Like, why not? To simplify all this. So design experiences that matter to people. Second part, I think a lot of companies now, like I've been everywhere here, like in Europe now, and one of the things you notice, and Sweden and the Nordics is really good, because it's sort of like a flat organization that encourages innovation, encourages people to participate, and people sort of like feel connected at work, I assume. Like not all of us, but most. More so than in other countries. But designing an organization and the way they work culturally and so on is absolutely key in delivering great experiences. That's the fundament of that. All right? And I'm going to tell you that most organizations are not set up in this way. All right? To allow you, I'm not sure what you're doing. I'm looking at you. Your lovely beard, by the way. I wish I had one of that. I need to grow it, I guess. He has a long, lovely beard. But it's like how you set up organizations for like delivering amazing experiences. I think I'm going to tell you that we're not so good at that. Now, check this out. Over here in that corner, you see, do you know like adoption, technologies that have been introduced into society? And on the x-axis here, you see the years, from 1900 up to 2020. And on the y-axis, you see technology adoption, So what you see here is that something like these, I don't know if people have phones anymore, but we have electricity and we have cars, I guess. It took about 75 years for those technologies to reach like almost 100% adoption, making them common technologies that are integral parts of our lives. 75 years. Now, if you're an organization and it takes 75 years for something to change, it's like really slow. You don't have to like be urgent. You don't have to be so nimble. You can just sit back and relax and, hope for the best, I guess. People who make decisions today will be dead by the time, so they can do whatever they want. So if we fast forward a little bit into sort of when I was born, I'm from 76. So I'm 39. And I grew up with those things here. The PC and the VCR, not the dishwasher. I remember in Skåne, in farm, ni vet, Skåne, vad kallar man det för, bönderna eller vad det är. People, farmers in English for those two of you who don't understand. So the dishwasher, so the dishwasher we didn't have one, but we had the other stuff. And the thing is with those things, it took 15 years or so for them to reach about 100% penetration, 15, 20 maybe, compared to 75. And the last thing I want to bring up here, and check out the graph of this. It's obviously the smartphone. In a couple of years, this thing, this device, reached 100% adoption, at least in Stockholm, not in Skåne, obviously. We're still with a VCR adopting to that. But you know, sorry, I hope there are no Skånska purse people in here. I don't know. I love you. So smartphones are like a massive penetration, and that's sort of important here. And if you're a company now, imagine this, you know, the pace of change. And if you're a company, you have had so much time to adopt to that. And I just wanted to show you something on top of that. Remember now, this is like in the year 1900, 120 years ago, and this is today. Back then, you know, there were philosophers and people who, you know, the whole world view was very mechanistic, sort of like deterministic, like the clock. Have you heard of the clockwork universe? No, yes, no. Newton, you know, Newton, a physicist, Descartes, philosophers and stuff. They sort of thought the world and the universe worked like a watch. Very predictable, one thing led to another and another in a very sequential order. All right? Yeah? Like a very simplistic way of how the world worked. And the thing is, back then, it made sense to have, and a lot of our companies, I'm not sure if you work for any old companies. Is anyone like working for a company that's more than 30 years old? Yeah, look at that. I should raise my hand too. Yeah, so and they're like founded, they were formed with cultures and values and stuff in an age where the world was very, very different, very sequential, mechanistic almost. And you know what many of these companies believe is that you should reduce the role of a person into simple tasks, and they need to repeat them very effectively over and over and over again, like a fucking machine. All right? Yes, Vinder, I'm looking at you. I know you agree with this. This is really, really bad because it's not going to allow companies to be successful in this mess over here. And this mess is caused by the mobile smartphone. The reason why I say that, and that the mobile phone is at the center of all of this, is because it's allowing people, humans, us, to constantly talk to each other with brands, and with our employees, constantly, with everything, not just with everyone. And the smartphone, obviously, is the first Internet of Things thing, you know? And this is just going to escalate. There will be over 30, 40, maybe 50 billion smart devices just around the corner. And it's very unpredictable. All right, Jonas? Yes, yes, no, yes, all right. Just he's looking at me, they're very like, oh, dangerous. Yeah, but so that's chaotic. And what do companies do in that? You know, and just to understand why the phone is so important, you know that already. Like, it's very personal, you can take it with you everywhere, it's extremely powerful, lots and lots of sensors, it knows everything. Cameras, it's fucking amazing. It's the truly first personal computer, I would say. All right? The really first personal computer we have. This is another thing that's happened recently. You know, you remember when we got 3G? Are you as old as me? Like, we were like, what was it called? Vad hette det? Whapping or something. You remember like a really shitty experience on the phone? The internet basically didn't exist. And 3G all of a sudden allowed us to at least do emails. You remember, like properly emails? And stuff, and 4G now, we can actually watch movies and high resolution, 4K and so on. Lots of great content. And 5G is just around the corner, which will bring speeds up to 1 gigabit per second. And also open up the bandwidth for multiple things to be connected at the same time, at rapid paces, you know. So this cloud you saw is just going to grow in complexity, and the changes will happen much more quickly. And those 500 billion interactions is going to multiply very soon if you add in all the other devices as well. Complete fucking chaos. And here are these companies, and you in them, and me in them as well. And we're like, what the fuck do we do? Yeah, let's just do the same thing. Like, you know, Adobe Experience Manager, you know, creative. We need to think ahead, maybe do other things. Another cool thing that happened here is, and I love this here, you know, this is it's like, if you look at the corner down here, that's the screen size of the first mobile, the Nokia phones that you invented. The one you have probably is like here somewhere. Just like a line of, I don't know, 5 characters. Yeah, it's like a phone for tweeting, maybe. And what happened over time is that quickly, the screen sizes evolved. And the reason why I show you this, guys, is because this is the first, I think, meaningful window into the digital world for people, for this generation. Does that make sense to you? Like it's the first, it's big enough to allow us to interact with the digital world in a meaningful way. And if you're a designer here, I'm not sure what you're doing here, but you know that all of a sudden starts to make sense here. All right. So all these three things combined, there are many more things as well, but they have given rise to. I used to be with Google once for a while, and Google called it the Generation C, the connected generation. And it's a generation, it's not about age. You know, people think it's like millennials only, or, I don't know, 15-year-olds. I don't know what they do on the phones, Snapchatting, I guess, or whatever. I do that all the time, by the way, all the time. So, so the Generation C, it's about doing things. People are expecting things to be able to book a taxi that takes you from A to B in a really simple way. Does that make sense? Do your declarations, do really like everyday things. And the expectations are just rising and rising for the simplicity of it. And Deloitte, they asked how people use their phones, like in daily life. And they asked in 40 different countries. And if you look at that, like people have their phones with them all the time. All the time. Doing things, photographing their kids when they're eating and so on. So it just shows what the Generation C looks like in the numbers. And here's another interesting stat. I know this is really small, but can you see this? No? Yes? No? This is the amount of time people spend on different devices, on different TV, mobile, desktop. And this is from the UK and the US, and I think Swedish, I don't know, like when I lived here, the US and the UK were like the countries people looked at, like that's where things are happening. And if you look here, like in 2011, I have to like come down here. In 2011, people spent on average 30 minutes on their mobile phones. Last year, 2015, it was almost 3 hours. Okay? Massive growth in the UK, in the US, everywhere. And the interesting thing is when you look at the desktop, that's just above the highlighted line. Can anyone see that, or do I have to? Yeah. So desktop was in 2011. We spent 2 hours and 33 minutes, and in 2015 it was 2 hours and 22 minutes. And it's the same in the UK, same in the US. It's plateauing or even stagnating, declining at the expense of mobile. All right? And a lot of Swedish companies, like if you work for a big company, it's a small country here, like in the Nordics, and our markets are not like we can't, with a constant growth, and we need to grow in revenue. Jonas, revenue is important, KPIs, growth, margins. We need to expand. Companies, you need to expand and sell stuff into Asia, for example. And China, I've included China here as well. This is, guys, if you haven't been there recently, this is like stepping into the future, like 2-3 years into the future. They know what they're doing. And if you look at that, you see here that mobile in 2015, people in China spent 2 hours on the mobile device and only 1 hour on desktop. All right? Twice as much time. And the interesting fact here is that 2 years ago, mobile overtook desktop 2 years ago. And this is the future for Sweden, for the UK, for the US. This is what it will look like in 2 years from now. Your customers and your teams and whatever you do to interact with your customers, they're going to spend twice as much time on the mobile device versus desktop. That's bad news for Google. I just had to say that. So I love Google. I love Google. Do no evil. It's important. So the question is, where does growth come from? Is this driven by browsers or is it through apps? And this is the key thing here, because I'm going to tell you that this mobile revolution is not about the device itself or a browser or a responsive website? No. The stuff highlighted in green here is the growth broken down where they've looked at, is it from an app or from the browser in the phone? And it's clearly over 70% of the growth in usage, digital usage, is spent on apps, in apps. Does that make sense? Now, you know these things, right? Tinder, and we date and we meet people, and yeah, do you know? So those are like the big apps, obviously. And most people, you spend your time on Facebook and WhatsApp and so on, right? I guess. Do you know how much time people spend out of that we saw there? Do you know how much they spend on branded apps, like a Nike app or Hotels.com or like Adobe, our Lightroom thing? Do you know? Out of all of this time, do you know any guess how much percentage of time we spend on branded apps? 20%? Higher, lower? 10%. Yes. Just 10% of that time. That seems like a low number, right? And you're sitting here, you're representing a brand, and people are not really spending time in our apps. No, let's do a responsive website. Let's do web. The reason why people are just spending 10% in companies' apps is because they suck, all right? They're shit. It's just something they built. They don't really have time to update and maintain them. They usually suck, and most importantly, they don't do anything useful. So if you have, and that's what I'm trying to tell. I'm going to give you some advice what you have to do to up that number and what you can do. And even just before I go on, just because it's a low number doesn't mean it's not important for things like, I'm looking at Jonas now, the managing director here. He was just promoted, by the way, doing a great job. But check out seriously, congratulate him out. He's really good. So check it out. Yeah, I mean it. I'm serious. I joke, but I love him. So look at this, 10%, we spent in those, yet 300 billion. That's a huge number. In 2015, came from e-commerce transactions inside apps. All right? Inside apps. And over 1 trillion was influenced by these apps here. It's a huge number, right? Massive, absolutely massive. So what I encourage you to do is to do the following here. Like build apps, like start to think about how you can build apps that does really simple things. Like don't overcomplicate things. It's like how you check in more simply, like easily in Ida, where are you? Is she here? Oh, there you are. Like how you check into your hotel, or how you leave a review, or how you take a photograph of your room. Like just encourage that a little bit. Make it super simple for people to do so. All right? To engage with your brand. Simplify. And also for your teams. Is there any manager here, any bosses or so, like who have team responsibilities? Anyone? That's one, just what, two? Okay, two, shit. Okay, all right. So what you can do is to sort of simplify. The bearded man, great. So what you can do is to encourage your people to, have ideas that can easily be translated into an app. So they can build apps like easily and at scale. Also, if you do this the right way, you're going to start to use apps more internally, like for your marketing events and campaigns and so on. And apps will be part of that planning from day one, instead of a bolt-on. Does that make sense in Swedish? Do you know what a bolt-on thing? It's like någonting man bara lägger till, liksom så här på day 60 when your marketing campaign is done, like really last minute. And that's why they suck, your apps mostly. Do it from day one. And this is a quote. Yeah, I know. Yeah, shit. Yeah, we need to cut this off. This is a quote from Seth Godin. And sometimes people think, just spending more time inside an app is important, but it's not. It's maybe they just want like 1 second, like Ida up there. When you check into a hotel, the less time you spend in an app, the better it is. It's that simple. It's not just about how much time you spend in them. Jonas, just 3 more minutes. Is it okay? 3? All right, 3 more. So I'm going to give you one quick example of an app here that does something really well. You don't know of this company, but they're huge in China, completely disrupting logistics. All right, they've been around for 2 years. They have 18,000 drivers. It's like an Uber for logistics. And I just want to quickly show you this app, what it looks like, and why experience in an app is so important, and how it can win business over from your competitors. All right, even if you're a small guy. So look at this app. Like it's just there are 3 steps on how to book a shipment or yourself going from A to B. It uses the GPS to find out where you are, so you don't have to type anything into the phone. It uses the hardware over the phone. It uses your contacts list when you decide where you want to take this, where you want to ship the product to. You see the cost, and the next step is you can add, if you want the driver to speak English, you have your pickup times and the van there. It's like a really simple, intuitive interface. And here's the end result. You click on that, and it's just like Uber or Halo, if you know those. You see the driver is coming to you. And this, if you look at the timer, it took me 1 minute to do this. 1 minute. This is in real time. It's my own screenshots. And here's an example from, FedEx, right? I'm just quickly going to take you through the experience in this app. Remember now, this is a huge company with hundreds of thousands of employees. Lots of money, right? Yeah. User license agreement, FedEx, I don't know, create a shipment, you click on it, and here's I love this. Here's like an instruction of how to use the app. And I can tell you this, if you need to have instructions in how to use an app, you have done a really bad job. I'm telling you. It's all shitty. So loading, and check out all these steps. Check out all these steps. Yeah, scrolling down, and it's a response. Yeah, details, I don't know, blah, 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 blah. Like look at these icons from Windows 3.1. I love them. So it's a shitty app. So what I'm trying to tell you here is that this experience, if you design it well, you can win a lot of business, all right? Make it convenient for your customers to interact with your brand, and that 10% number will go up. And you're going to thrive in this digital economy. So, it's just really fast. I'm going to hurry up now. So this, what you see here is sort of a lot of companies that are mobile only, that are competing with FedEx's, all core businesses. You can't do any of these things on an actual website. They're all mobile, all right, inside an app. And and the reason why I think, I'm going to share, it's just soon. One thing that these companies have in common, and I think this is super important here. This is a guy called Tom Goodwin from Havas Media in the UK, great guy. He describes these startup companies, this sort of mentality for succeeding in digital in this way. Inspired by new technologies, new behaviors, liberated by new marketing dynamics. And most importantly, they have been propelled into rapid growth, unencumbered by the assets, elements, knowledge that all these big companies share, like FedEx. They're failing because they're stuck in the past. And one of the reasons why FedEx and many other big companies are failing, I have to say this, I really have to say this, is because they tend to look this way. All right? Yeah. And this one here is always vacant. All right? New ideas are so bad, let's not do anything. Let's just do more of the same. And what's happening here, guys, is that, I'm just going to skip this. I just want to show you when it's done here now. That in the old world, it's done in 2 seconds. In the old world, in this mechanistic sort of clockwork universe, the old stuff, I know. Yes. We had like a top-down hierarchies would work. But I think that's not going to do anymore, and we need to have a completely flat organization, sustained organizational adaptability, and they're characterized, and this is really important, they're characterized by these qualities here. Have a look at them. That's how it feels like being inside a real digital organization set up for succeeding in this digital economy.
Okay,
right? Thank you.
Tony.
Thank you.